Is there a John Luck Picard here?
Welcome everybody to an exclusive one-off episode. I'm your host, Grant Davis, and I wanted to talk about some Star Trek Picard theories that are going around. Just wanted to do something kind of casual where I'm pulling up and discussing some of the theories people are postulating on over on Reddit. I think Reddit is kind of the best hub for seeing what kind of crazy stuff people are throwing out there, what people are speculating might be going on. And yeah, I always enjoy checking these out and then kind of thinking them over, discussing what might be on the right trail, what stuff is just completely bonkers and absurd. And I wanted to share that with you as well. So before I get into that, thank you guys for checking out the episode. Once again, you guys can always help us out by going ahead and subscribing to this show on the podcast, wherever you're listening to it. Make sure that you also go to our YouTube channel and check us out over there. There you can subscribe to us as well. And we do a live feed every week when we are discussing the episode. I know the episodes come out like at 12:01 a.m., so they're released that day rather than at a certain time airing anymore. So everyone's kind of watching at different times, but we hope that ultimately people have all watched that day before we try to do our episode, which is at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. That hopefully is a good window of time for people on the East Coast, people on the West Coast. You all can join us over on YouTube and watch us discuss the episode, our hot takes, and then diving in and just kind of dissecting what's going on with the episode, arguing about different plot points, and landing on how we're feeling about how the show is developing. I think it's a lot of fun, and we love the engagement we've gotten from you guys so far. We really appreciate that, and want to encourage more of you to join us on the live feed. And another way you guys can help us is, of course, over at patreon.com/Star Trek Pod. There you can make a per episode pledge. We generally encourage at least $2 an episode. Give us $2 an episode. You can also be invited to our exclusive Slack channel where a ton of us are constantly discussing all of our theories of Picard, of Discovery, of the Star Trek universe at large. And we'd love for you guys to come join us over there as well. Patreon.com/Star Trek Pod. And once again, to be clear, this is a weird one-off episode. I'm Grant, the person on our four-man squad on the podcast that is the least familiar with Trek. So you'll have to bear with me if we venture into theory territory that's threading in other plot lines from other shows. I'm not going to be as familiar with them, so some of this stuff might go a little bit over my head. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this first theory. This one comes to us from the user ST Thoughts, probably Star Trek Thoughts. Says, Star Trek Picard theory. This is a bit of a Hail Mary prediction, but I think I figured out what the plan for Picard is. They're too long, didn't read. Summary is, the Romulans are essentially the Cylons of the Vulcan race. Before the divergence of the Vulcan and Romulan species, the Vulcans had created a synthetic life form race. The synthetics would go on to rebel against the Vulcans and would leave the planet in order to start their own society. This would leave the Vulcans to embrace logic, reject their past ways that led to making the Romulans. The Romulans, in turn, would found their own new society, forgetting their origins as synthetic race, having developed biological bodies, and go on to live Romulan lives. With the exception of the Zad Vash. The Zad Vash would live on to protect the secret from the rest of the Romulan society and the galaxy. The Romulans lived a very secret existence. The Federation didn't know what they looked like until the original series. despite having fought a war and negotiating the neutral zone with them. This would give the Vulcans plenty of time to have forgotten about the true origins of the Romulans, and the Romulans only remember that they were displaced from their original home. This would bring us up to the events of Picard, where a Borg cube was disabled and cut off from the collective after becoming the first and only cube to assimilate Romulans. The Borg depend on their organic components to survive. Once exposed to an advanced synthetic race, the Romulans, the Borg could not process their synthetic brains into the collective, leading to a breakdown of order within the cube, which was then severed from the collective to prevent further disorder. If you made it this far, thanks for reading this long shot musing of someone looking way too hard into things. P.S. Ron Moore is either proud or pissed. My first thought is they threw that TLDR right at the top, and that whole thing, I don't know. Usually TLDR is at the very end and is just like a one sentence summary. But I think that is a very cool idea. The idea that the Romulans are essentially a synthetic version of Vulcans, which is why they would look just alike, but why they act in very disparate manners. Although, wouldn't it, in a way, make a little bit more sense for the Vulcans to be the synthetics, as a robot might be a little bit more prone to the logic aspect, and the Romulans might be the humans that are a little bit more emotional and hate synthetics like they hate Vulcans. But maybe this idea of the flip being true, especially as it's playing out with what's going on with the Borg and the anomaly of Romulans, the improbability of Romulans somehow being assimilated into the Borg cube before things went haywire there. I really like this theory. I think this has a good basis, and again, I'm not really as well versed as others in the whole backstory of the Romulans and the Vulcans and what kind of friction is there, or what might be the origin story for their existence and divergence from each other. If you guys know that a little bit better than I do, feel free to chime in with your thoughts here. But on first impression, I think all of that really seems fitting with what's going on with Soji and Daj, as well as this kind of continued exploration of the impact that Data might have had. And furthermore, if there is this growing dangerous sect, the Zad Vash of the Romulans, who are trying to keep secret the fact that they have a synthetic origin. And that's why maybe they destroyed Mars, because Mars seemed to be on the verge of telling a little bit of that story of, hey, we too have a synthetic origin. That is also fitting, right? Like they would want to take out Mars. They would want to get rid of Daj and any other synthetics that the humans might be making, because those kind of give up the ghost on the origins of their own species and how they might be attacked by the rest of the galaxy for their phobia of synthetics, robophobia. But if Picard is leading the charge, and if Data is instrumental in not only his perspective on the value of synthetics, but also on how synthetics can evolve to be perhaps some of the truest and most loving of beings in the galaxy, then that all also really fits well. I think just structurally, that's a much more interesting idea. And I know I entered into this show going, I don't know what's going on. Everything is really complex. But props to ST Thoughts here. I think that their theory on here is pretty fantastic. So I would like to discuss this further with the rest of the gang on our main episode. Let's jump to another theory. This one comes to us from Pletox. Says, possible spoilers, tags are used. And then there's a disclaimer up top. Says, I have not read through the sub-defined similar posts yet because I don't know if others have come to the same conclusion. Blah, 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 crazy theories. All right, let's see what these spoilers are. This one's my favorite one. This says, Dr. Girardi, a.k.a. Kim Pine, a.k.a. Allison Pill, is a double agent. That's what I've been theorizing too. It says, there's a couple indicators why I think this, such as the visit she got from Commodore O and just showing up just in time to save Picard from the assassin, plus a few other things. In the event this turns out to be true, I now have it on record that I totally called it, says Pletox. Discussion is welcome, but please use spoiler tags as I have, just in case anyone doesn't want their impression of Girardi affected by my theory. Yeah, I know that other people have definitely called this. I've been saying this as well. I think Allison Pill does she's a fantastic actress. I love her. And seeing her in like Snowpiercer is just like, oh, this person who can come across so sweet and then just on a I don't even know what's that expression, on the flip of a dime. I don't know the expression I'm trying to come up with. Anyway, she can just suddenly turn into such a villain. And yeah, there's a lot of substance, I think, to this theory that she could be evil. Although maybe now they're lacing it a little bit too heavily that it could be a red herring. But if we take a look, yeah, we have Allison Pill, we have Dr. Girardi, rather, being the lone person who is obsessed with exploring synthetics and is left alone to her own devices at Daystrom Institute. She runs into Picard and is luckily just the person he would need to talk to, who is knowledgeable about the twin aspect, about hunting Soji down. She knows how to ingratiate herself into his life by saying that she loves Earl Grey tea. Oh, that's gonna get him. That's gonna get Jean-Luc. You say you like Earl Grey? He's like, yeah, we're tight. And then she just happens to have a gun, acts like she doesn't want to touch a gun or know how to use it, but point blank just destroys one of those evil Romulan Valdash extremists. And then she plays this innocent victim who just was there at the perfect time to hitch a ride. We don't know the conversation that she had with Commodore O, but we also don't know if Commodore O is as evil as she seems up front. We don't know what's going on with a lot of these characters. I do agree that I think that Dr. Girardi has nefarious intent. And I thought it was really telling that quick scene at the end of the third episode where the first in command lady, Picard's right-hand lady, I forgot her name, says, what is Dr. Girardi doing on our ship? I didn't even have time to vet her. So they don't do a background check on her. And it's another quick line to say, should we trust her? So yeah, I think we have every reason to raise an eyebrow at Dr. Girardi, but whether or not she is a double agent or this is a red herring, who knows? The writers know well enough how to drop red herrings as well to make us suspect that she's evil, only to go, oh, what? You guys thought? No, she's pure of heart, always been pure of heart. So who knows? Let's go to a next theory. This one comes to us from Zarian Prime. Zarian says, so after seeing the Zat Vash agent interact with the Vulcan Commodore, I was thinking, the Vulcan Commodore is also a member of Section 31. They reached out to the Zhat Vash after the synths went rogue to get their help with hunting down synths. After all, Section 31 remembers what happened with Control back in the DIS days. DIS. What's Discovery days? So there might actually be a third faction that caused the synths to go rogue on Mars. So that's interesting. This idea of Section 31 playing a role in what's kind of going down. It is interesting because we are potentially, I think, still getting a Section 31 spin-off series that should be in development right now. And they might not actually want to play too heavily into Section 31 just popping up on all of these shows and being such a major plot point. I would think they probably want to do most of their exploration in that show and not have that be a feature here. Plus, I think you have enough intrigue with the Zhat Vash and the Vulcans and the Romulans and the Borg and the synths and the humans and the Federation and all of that. I think it's probably enough. I don't know. I'm not sure how complex Trek likes to go, but adding that extra layer might be a bit much. That's kind of what I'm thinking there. So next one is from EA_stop. Says, I think I saw this somewhere else, but my dad pointed it out to me. He was watching a second time Picard and noticed that during the initial dream sequence, Data plays 5 queens. When Daj was attacked the first time, the attacker asked, "Where are the rest of them?" This implies there are more than 2. Interesting theory. I mean, I do agree. I think there are more synths, and I'm of the opinion that what they're doing is a little bit of a Sense 8 thing, where I guess my understanding is that the Borg hive mind all operates under one controller, whereas the synths like Daj and Soji might be operating under a different rule structure where all of the collective minds can enter into a person or toggle in and out as needed for like this kind of skill share. So it isn't that everyone's personal identity is wiped out and only one unit is controlling everything like an ant hive. Instead, it's a little bit more like people can swap in and out their programming a little bit more a la Johnny Mnemonic or The Matrix or something Keanu Reeves, right? But I like this idea of the five of queens. Wait, 5 queens? The 5 queens that he played in the poker game in the beginning being a reference to 5 synthetic women that might be tied together. That is pretty cool. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping we'll get a little bit more detail sooner than later on what the attackers did mean when they said, "Where are the rest of them?" Something to keep an eye on. Let's go to this next one. Oh, here's a theory about 7 of 9 Section 31 operative. Says, this is from Casey Brown, who said, after Voyager returns home, 7 is recruited by Section 31 due to her vast knowledge and Borg ability to rationalize the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. She would make a great operative. And, I mean, once again, this idea of whether or not Section 31 is going to kind of play a role here, but we know that 7 of 9 is supposed to pop up. I'm unfamiliar with 7 of 9 outside of being a teenager when people were had posters of her all the time, and like other teenage boys would be like, "Oh, 7 of 9 is so hot," and I was like, I don't watch this show. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Voyager. I don't really know the plot of it at all. But people do seem to be a big fan of the character and are eagerly anticipating her. I think she's supposed to pop up in episode 5. Could be wrong about that. And let's do a few more of these. This next one comes to us from... What's his name? PC Howinard 187. I don't know. I'm probably Shawnard, maybe 187. Says new Star Trek Picard theories. Well, the new Star Trek Picard countdown comic is out, and the theories are ramping up. They link to an article that has a bunch of theories, and it says Worf is the captain of the Enterprise right now, and Romulans attack Starfleet's shipyard to prevent a resume mission. Resume mission? Rescue mission? So Worf, I guess, is now the captain of the Enterprise? Maybe we'll get to see him in this show. That'd be cool. I don't know much about Worf, except for that he seems super cranky all the time. That's my impression of him. He's probably irritable, lovable giant kind of thing, like a heart of gold, but he's just always a little bit pouty in a cranky kind of alien way. Let's do this one here. This is from Johnny J. Says Star Trek Picard theory. The Borg doomed Romulus. This is actually a link to a Screen Rant article. I'm gonna skip that. I want the people's theories. I don't want a theory from an article there. This is from JGH 1138. So I have a theory that the new woman Picard is helping isn't just a Borg, but the daughter or offspring or creation of Locutus and the Borg Queen. She's the right age, and the two were intimate. I think it was glossed over in First Contact. Just a random idea. So, Locutus and the Borg Queen created a daughter? I mean, ultimately, she's 3 years old? She's a creation. I don't know Locutus and Borg Queen from that movie, from First Contact, so I can't speculate based on that. But I don't think she's supposed to be a physical offspring of anyone. Soji. Someone else was saying, I suspect she's Hugh's daughter. But again, unless we're talking about someone else and a different character. Oh. I should check the date on when some of these are posted. This was posted 6 months ago, so these people are speculating way ahead of when we've had, current information about this whole thing. So I'll go ahead and give that one a pass. They are not going to be as familiar with what's going on here. And see if I can grab one or two more. Here is a theory. It says a possible major spoiler about the Zot Vash from a German newspaper. So MCM 8279 says, I just read a season preview article in my local German newspaper about season 1 of the Picard show. I assume that the journalist who wrote it has watched more than 3 episodes. In one part of a rather innocent summary about key elements of the new series, he suddenly mentions a time-traveling secret service. Time traveling? From the context of the text, he clearly seems to mean the Zot Vash. So, what did this mean? So we might see time travel in the new Picard show, that the Zot Vash didn't come from the past, but maybe from the future. They say like Daniels in Enterprise. And that they're able to become a legend in Romulan society because they probably showed up many times in the Romulan timeline in the past 1,000 years, because they're time travelers on a mission that disappeared back to the future after completing their objectives. They might know Soji will become the destroyer in the near future because they've already observed it from the future. So now they want to prevent it. And that artificial life posed such an enormous danger for future Romulans that they try to prevent the development of AI from the future by time travel, which is the Terminator 2 scenario, right? And they are therefore could maybe be connected to Discovery Season 3 if there is still a Romulan Empire in the 32nd century. That the crazy Romulan lady on the cube indeed recognized Soji because from her perspective, she's already experienced her future actions as the destroyer because she was a Zhat Vash agent from a future century before she was assimilated in the 24th century. Dude, that one's kind of crazy. That the cube was suddenly deactivated because Borg 24th century assimilation technology was confused by future Zhat Vash technology. Interesting. Soji's destiny could indeed be close to close a causal loop by becoming the destroyer of the Romulan people or maybe the whole quadrant. And that we've watched the start of that loop. The title of episode 3 was The End is the Beginning. Do we witness a loop or a circle that has to be closed, or does Picard have to break the circle at the end to save the galaxy? And maybe Picard will have to kill her in the season or series finale himself to prevent her from becoming the destroyer. Wow. Okay. Very fascinating. And it's kind of interesting in that earlier, a few days ago, one of our listeners is also a member of Star Trek, of the cast and crew of Star Trek Discovery, Anthony Rapp, aka Lieutenant Stamets. Pretty awesome. And he posted something sharing that he's listening to Picard. Very flattering. Thank you so much for checking us out. That's awesome. But I was discussing with someone the idea about when you're in a show that's tangentially related to the current show, do you kind of watch that wondering I wonder if ever my character that I've worked on and developed, I could be pulled into this show, this series, and how would that work? And I was thinking, one of the people who might be able to is Stamets, who's connected to the mycelial network and is a link to the time travel device that they're able to utilize on Discovery. He would be a good candidate for time traveling in to Picard somehow. I don't know. Writers are creative. But that was just me kind of musing on that idea. And then I was like, I don't know if they're going to do time travel stuff. It is fascinating to see that maybe a German newspaper has spilled the beans that there might be a time traveling element. I love time travel. I don't know if this is going to pan out or not, or it's going to pan out in this particular context, but I think that this is a pretty fascinating idea that the Zhat Vash might be from the future and desperately trying to prevent future events by traveling in the past, and that never really seems to work out well, especially when you have a rascal like Jean-Luc Picard who's gonna just muck things up because he's pure of heart and he's gonna save good innocent people who haven't done their evil future crimes yet. So I don't know, stuff like this really makes me excited to get to the next episode. And today is Tuesday, so that means we just have 2 more days before episode 4 comes out. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here on these theories. I think there's a lot of really fun ideas to kind of chew over. Some of these are a little bit more off the wall. Some of them seem kind of plausible, but I don't know. I'm not sure what might be something that someone's on the right path theorizing here and what might be a little bit too bonkers. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. And if you guys want to hit us up in the comments, you can also reach out to us via any of our social media pages, either on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. And again, we'd love to have you guys come join us in the chat, which is on Slack. And the only way you get there is through an exclusive private invite if you become at least a $2 an episode patron. So that's about $8 a month. And it's for whenever we actually put out content. So it will be for the run of this series. And then when the next season of Discovery rolls out, we'll jump back in and be discussing that as well. And we would love to have you guys join our little podcast family. So go to patreon.com/Star Trek Pod. There you can make the per episode pledge. Another way to help us out, you can go and give us that 5-star rating, write a little review on Apple Podcasts. You can also do it, I guess, over on Stitcher or I don't know, does Spotify allow you to do that? Mainly just do it on Apple Podcasts. It's going to be where most people are already finding us and listening to us. And it's a great, free, and hopefully not too cumbersome way that you guys can help us out. Only takes a few minutes, if that. Just write a couple sentences being like, oh yeah, Grant's theories are amazing. Or, you know, whatever you guys want to say. Thank you guys so much. I'm looking forward to being back here on Thursday night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Go ahead and go to our YouTube page to subscribe so that when we go live, you get that little inbox notification and you can jump right into the chat and start discussing with us what you thought of episode 4. Until then, we'll be back. Live long and prosper.
Sometimes you just have to bow to the absurd.